The best thing a multiplayer game can do is provide additional goals for the players to complete. This can be anything from achievements for achievement hunting, for example, to progression systems, to just general things that allow players to work towards certain goals in order to keep them playing. A lot of people have tried to say in the past, for whatever reason, that shoehorning in things like progression systems and achievements and all of that is cheating, because if the game itself is fun, then the game itself should just be fun and you should play just for the enjoyment of the game. And that's just arrogant, in my opinion. That's true. You should play for the enjoyment of a game, but nothing in this world, no matter how good it is, not even fucking sex, is good after the 30th time in the same fucking day. Have you ever tried to do something you really enjoy multiple times in a day? It gets old very, very quickly. Were it not for things like progression systems, achievements, ranks, and more, then people would simply not play live service games more than for maybe an hour a day, if that. And I understand that the average person probably only does play for about an hour to 2 hours a day because they have things like work and school and families and friends. And I am a balding 30-year-old comedian on the internet that makes daily videos. I can't talk. My joke is ruined. Moving on. The point is that these things are important within games because they give you a reason to keep playing. For Dead by Daylight, there is basically an endless reason to keep playing because there are so many fucking characters in this game and you are never going to P100 all of them. That's just not possible. You're not going to P100 all of them. Twisted Visuals might, but that's not the point. The point is that I am happy for all of the systems that Dead by Daylight has for us to work toward. And the archives are probably, ironically, my favorite aspect. If you're a fan of audio horror stories, then check out my second channel, where I write, voice, and produce my own original stories, released every single Sunday, so you can go to bed with your creeps at night. Link is in the description. The archives provide a chance for you to earn lore about the game. I like this idea. You can earn the ability to learn more about the story if you want, while simultaneously collecting those precious blood points that we all yearn for, as well as free cosmetics, which is usually in the form of charms, but ever since they released the profile pictures and the banners, they've also been in the form of profile pictures and banners. I personally like this design choice because it opens the door for the developers to tell a deeper story without affecting gameplay, but it also gives you that all-important goal to continue working towards. The way they implement archives could be a bit better. So the thing about archives in general is they have this very random way of presenting things. Archive challenges typically will have 3 to 4 tiers of blood point rewards: 15,000, 30,000, 45,000, and 60,000. These blood point rewards seemingly have no correlation to how hard the challenge actually is. I understand that they'll often try to attach these rewards to things that have to do with specific perks, or in the killer's case, doing a specific power in a specific way. But you could have something like down somebody with the hillbilly's chainsaw after dashing for 15 meters, award 60,000 points, and then have some obnoxious shit like M1 survivors with the nurse 5 times in one match. You see how those two things don't quite mix, how they don't quite line up together? And this gets especially egregious when it comes to Survivor archives. Now, I have been a very big proponent of this game is not killer-sided, this game is not survivor-sided. It is actually more balanced than people give it credit for. It's just the perspective that people tend to have is usually because they are either bad at the game or because they misunderstand what the point of a fucking ASIM game is. But I'm not going to get into all that. the thing that I want to tell you is that when it comes to archive challenges, killers 110% have this shit easier. The hardest thing for killers in the archives is usually going to be something involving things like sacrifices during the in-game collapse, or like there's one archive very early on that was like sacrifice all 4 survivors in the basement. Another one was hook all 4 survivors in the basement at the same time. Yeah, that was kind of ridiculous. But for there's like, I can think of like 4 or 5 that were like utterly obnoxious for killer. I can think of dozens of archives for Survivor that are fucking ridiculous. And like, I don't think anybody can really argue this point either, right? Like, because killer archives are always like, hit 8 survivors with your basic attack. And then Survivor archives are unlock 14 chests while being 10 meters away from the killer and doing backflips and reciting the entire Encyclopedia Britannica on the full moon of the Wednesday in April. Do this in one match. It's the most absurd, obnoxious thing. And a lot of Survivor archives just make you completely throw the game. Like, I understand some of the archives, right? Like the things like unlocking chests and cleansing totems. Those are very difficult to, those are things that the Survivor would, or not would normally do, but can normally do and not actively be throwing the game. But then there's things like hide within 10 meters of the killer for 45 seconds in one match. Like, why? Why is that a thing? What the fuck do you mean 10 meters of the killer? The killer is never just going to be standing in one place. So instead of cleansing totems to prevent NOED or getting yourself a useful item from a chest, you're forced to be sniffing the killer's asshole for half the match trying to get this stupid thing to go off. And it just gets really frustrating at times. There's one in the current archive, which I don't know if it's going to be gone by the time this video is being recorded like 2 weeks ahead of time. But there's one in the current archive with the Alan Wake on page 4 that says, have the killer miss 3 basic attacks near of you in one match. Do you know how often that happens? The answer is next to never. And that's just one of the least egregious ones. You know, that's another example of throwing the game, because you're basically having to go over to the killer and bait the killer into swinging at you and hoping they fucking miss. So you better hope that auto aim saves your ass, or you know how to spin, or maybe you could do the fucking sprint burst technique or whatever, and hope that works. I don't know what I'm going to do when I get to that one. That one's going to be so frustrating. But that's just a giant problem that they have. Now, in my opinion, the fix to this would be to, like, just stop doing these kind of things. I think particularly for survivors, at least in my opinion, because again, killer archives are generally just easier across the board. I think survivors should have all do this in one match just taken away. Just never added ever again, because it is infuriating. It is so infuriating when you have some like really, like there was one in one of the early tomes that was like complete 4 generators in a match, which means if even 2 generators get completed without you, you completely lose. And that's ridiculous. Survivor archives in general should be directed toward what you would be doing in the match normally, and then maybe an added challenge. One of my personal favorite flavors of archives have been the perk roulettes. The perk roulettes are amazing because it doesn't actively throw your game. You have to rely on your own skill, and a lot of people love them. I also like the memory cores. I like the glyphs. I think the glyphs are actually really, really good. Just in general, right, there should be bonus things to do that don't directly involve some asinine tasks. And honestly, too, I also think that they need to make sure that there's like a bug overhaul. Like there was that premonition bug that had me stuck on an archive for like fucking like 2 days straight just to find out it was bugged and couldn't be completed. And then after I came back from my hiatus, it worked in literally one emotion. Like I literally hit the one key once and it fucking completed it completely. So there needs to also be a bug overhaul. But in conclusion, I think the archives are good. I think they're healthy for the game. I think they're necessary. I just think that Survivor archives definitely need an overlook, and we need to avoid, and also, like, not just in the future. I think that behavior needs to go back into the previous archives and start finding all the bullshit ones and fixing those as well. But that's just my thoughts. As always, I don't make these videos just to spout my opinions at you. I make these videos so I can hear your thoughts as well. And also a great big special thank you to our channel members listed on screen now. If you want to find out how to become a channel member today, get great perks like merch discount codes and seeing videos early and more, then please click that join button down below. Love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one.